The film begins in 1975, at an orphanage in Spain. It is a place for children who have no one else in the world. Among them is a girl named Laura, who is seen playing with her friends. Now after some time, someone adopts Laura and we directly see the time after 30 years in the story, where Laura got married and now she lives with her husband and 7-year-old son, Simon. Recently, Laura had bought that orphanage again where she spent her childhood because she wanted to make that place like before, adopt some special children and take care of them. In a few days, this family shifts there. Now one day when Simon was playing in that new house, the orphanage, he tells his mom and dad about his 2 friends. He said that they're my invisible friends, only I can see them. Now his parents thought that since he is a child, he must have made friends in his imagination, so they ignored Simon's words. The next day, Laura shows Simon a cave on the shore of the sea. Simon goes inside to check it out, while Laura stands outside and waits for him but for a long time. When Simon does not come out, Laura goes inside to find him. She saw that Simon was talking to someone there alone, but when Laura checked, she found nothing but the footprints of the children there. On the way back home, Simon throws a lot of shells on the way so that his new friend follows the shells and comes to his house. The next day, an old woman comes to meet Laura. She says, "I am a social worker and also work as a doctor." When Laura brings her into the house, the social worker discusses Simon and shows Laura his file. "We found out that Simon is not their own but adopted son." She says, "When you adopted Simon, he had a disease before that, which I was treating. Now because I am his doctor, I still want to treat him." But Laura refuses and says, "My husband is a doctor himself and I want Simon to be treated in our custody at home, not outside." So she takes the file from the social worker and asks her to leave. To confirm the disease, when Laura checked the file, his report was positive. Now Laura did not want Simon to know that he is an adopted son and he has a disease, so Laura hid the file in a locker in the closet and kept the key with her. That night, Laura woke up because of a loud noise. The noise was coming from the shed outside her house, so Laura went to check there. She sees that there is a social worker who is searching in the shed as if she is looking for something very important there. Laura got scared. She quickly wakes up her husband and tells him about it. Both came to check, but by then the social worker had left. The next morning, when Laura opened the front door, she found shells scattered along the path outside, and these are the same shells that Simon dropped on the way back from cave. Simon tells Laura about his 6 friends, that they are all invisible. "Very soon I will also become like them and then I will always be with them." Laura finds it strange. Then she sees Simon's drawing where he had also made pictures of those 6 invisible friends. One of them was also wearing a mask. All the children had something in their hands. Showing the drawing to Simon, Laura asks what is in their hands. Simon says, "My friends steal other people's things and hide them." Then the owner of the thing has to find his thing with the help of clues. If a person finds their belongings by following clues, they grant a wish for that person in return. This is a game and now I am going to play that game with my friends. Here I have to find my coins, which my friends have hidden somewhere. So now Laura also understands this game and gets ready to support Simon because she felt that Simon is going to play with her. By setting all the clues, she must have hidden her coins somewhere. Now through the clues, she first went to Simon's room, then to the garden, then to another room, then to the kitchen. In the end, Simon finds a key that belongs to the same closet where Laura had hidden his file. When Simon opens the closet with the key, he finds it in the middle of his coin files. Simon was happy to find the coin, but Laura takes the file and starts scolding him. At this, Simon says, "I already know that I am your adopted son. I have a disease and I will die soon." Listen to this. Laura lost her mind. She screams and asks Simon, "Who told you this?" Now Simon says Thomas did, who is his invisible friend wearing a mask. Hearing this, Laura is completely shocked. The next day, a party is held for those special children whom Laura was going to adopt. When she comes to invite Simon to the party, he refuses to go with her by saying that he should go to Thomas's house with me. She refuses, saying, "We can't go, son, there's a party at home," and they argue about it. Now when Simon became very stubborn, Laura slaps him later. She was also sad, but Simon got upset and left. After a while, when Laura looks for him in the house to convince him, he is nowhere to be found. Then she sees a child standing, who is wearing exactly the same dress and mask as Simon had made Thomas in his drawing, by which Laura thinks that this is Thomas. When Laura started removing his mask, the child pushed her and put her in the bathroom. Then when the child closed the door to lock her, Laura's hand came in the middle. She starts suffering in pain. Hearing her voice, her husband immediately came there. He opens the door and takes Lauren out. Simon was still nowhere to be found. Everyone started looking for him. Laura searches for him in every room, big and small, but when she realizes he is not at home, she goes to the seaside to look for him. While passing through the middle of the sea, she starts running towards the cave, but before she drowns, at the right time, her husband comes and saves her life. After this, Laura was taken to the hospital and the police tries to find Simon, for which they also went to the cave. Now Laura's husband comes and tells her that the police did not find Simon in the cave. She says, "How can this be? Because I saw him standing outside the cave. That's why I ran." Hearing this, the police doctor standing nearby says this is just Laura's illusion. She also said that it is possible that some of your relatives or acquaintances have kidnapped Simon. Hearing this, Laura and her husband thought of her as a social worker. Now Laura tells the police doctor that she came to my house to talk about Simon. One night she also came into the house and was limping in the shed, but hearing this, the police doctor said that how can this be? Because there is no social worker by this name, but because Laura really met her, so she started feeling that she has kidnapped Simon and she was sure that my son would be found from her. Now because Laura's leg was injured, she had to use a wheelchair. Seeing this, her husband tries to handle Laura. He starts comforting her. Then he takes off his chain and gives it to Laura, saying that you wear it and when Simon is found, I will take it back from you. When Laura was sleeping, in the middle of the night, she woke up with a loud voice. This voice was coming from near Simon's room. That's why Laura went to check there immediately. She saw a doll lying on Simon's bed. Now the scene shifts from here and comes after 6 months, and because the police had not been able to find Simon yet, that's why both of them had lost hope that they would ever find Simon. One day when they were going somewhere, they saw a social worker who was crossing the road and she was holding the baby carriage. Seeing that, both of them had a hope that Simon would definitely be with her and today our son will be found. Laura calls her to talk to her, but then a bus comes and hits the social worker. Seeing this, Laura started screaming. She ran away crying and went near the baby carriage, where she found another doll that looked exactly like Thomas, with a mask. When Laura went to check the social worker, her husband tells her that she is dead. After this incident, the police and a doctor retrieve some pictures and reels from the social worker's house, so that she can investigate, and it turns out that the social worker used to work in the same orphanage where Laura used to live as a child. The house where she is living now, she was telling all these things to Laura. Then she says there was also a son of the social worker, Thomas, and because his son's face was distorted, so he always wore a mask to hide his face, and the social worker also kept her child hidden from everyone. Now the police doctor shows Laura a newspaper in which it was written about Thomas's disappearance. She says, "Laura, when you were adopted as a child, after that some children took Thomas and went to the same cave. After going inside the cave, they took off Thomas's mask and they ran out because they wanted to see if Thomas would come out without a mask or not. Those children had gone from there, but Thomas remained inside. Then the high waves of the sea also came there, and poor he could not come out of there because there was also water in the cave, and by drowning, he died." On this, Laura says, "How can this happen? Because the day Simon disappeared, that day I saw Thomas in my house." On this, the police doctor says this cannot happen because Thomas is dead and this is also her illusion. On the same night, when Laura was lying on the bed, then her husband also came and laid down, with whom she started talking. She then remembers the time spent with Simon and completely drowns in it. She also tells these things to her husband, but after a while, when the door opened, her husband came to the room. Laura was scared to see that if he had just come, then who was with me on the bed? When she removed the sheet and saw, there was no one, she was scared. She also tells her husband, but both do not understand anything. Now because of these strange things, Laura got very worried, and because it had been 9 months since Simon disappeared, she goes to a professor who is a psychologist. She tells him everything about Simon's disappearance, whatever happened to her. She even gives him a piece of Thomas's mask, which she got when she pushed Laura. Hearing all this, the professor tells her to go to a medium, that is to a paranormal investigator, who investigates these strange things, ghosts, and talks to the ghosts to drive them away. The next day, the medium arrives at Laura's house fully prepared. She sits in a dark room, contacts all the spirits of the house, and tries to talk to them, while everyone else was watching the medium through cameras from the other room. Here, the medium comes to a room while checking the orphanage, where she hears the voices of 5 orphan children who were crying for help from the medium. It felt like they were in a very bad condition. The others in the adjacent room were also able to hear the sounds of children crying through the audio device. Now, when the medium asks those children about Simon at the request of the professor, all the power of the machines suddenly goes out. The machines shut down and this process is stopped here. Then when all these people got together, the medium apologizes to Laura that I could not find Simon. She also says people who are about to die or close to death can see the souls. Listening this, Laura was in thought. She thought that Simon was also sick, so maybe because of him, he was able to see those souls, whom he started calling his invisible friends. Hearing this, Laura's husband got angry. He calls all these things nonsense and asks the professor and everyone to leave his house. The medium then tells Laura, "You are mother, and it is your love for your child that will help you find Simon. You just have to pay attention to everything and notice the smallest things." Now Laura comes back to the same room where the medium heard the voices of the children crying, but then the window broke and fell on the bench below. When Laura checked the bench, she found some dolls lying there, along with Simon's picture. It felt like these things were also kept here as clues. Then she remembered about the game. This made Laura realize that the souls were now playing a treasure hunt game with her. Through the clothes, she gets a doorknob. When she checked the whole house, she did not find any door without a knob. Then Laura comes to the shed and checks where she gets the social worker's locket. Then she remembered that she also came here to find something that day. Laura breaks the doors of the small chambers made there and takes out the cement bags, but when she opened them, she fainted. Because 5 of her friends' corpses come out of them with whom Laura used to live in this orphanage. These were the children who went to the cave with Thomas and did all that. Actually, after that day, the social worker wanted to take revenge of her son Thomas's death from those children. She poisoned the food of those children and finally killed them. Then she filled them in these bags and kept them here, and because Laura had opened the orphanage again, the social worker came here to remove these bags so that no one else could know about it. Now Laura tries to explain all this to her husband, but he was not ready to listen and he talks about leaving this orphanage. On this, Laura asks for 2 days' time and says I will stay here alone. After her husband's departure, she starts changing the setting of the whole house. She had also removed the furniture and kept the old one. She had given a similar look to what this orphanage looked like 3 years ago. Then she wears the uniform of the orphanage worker and keeps food on the dining table and on the chairs. She also sits there with her friends' dolls. She starts calling her friends' souls through the doorknob, but when she doesn't come for a long time, then Laura starts playing a game that she used to play with her friends in this orphanage as a child. As the game is played, the souls of those children come there, but when she asks them about Simon, the children start running away from there to play hide and seek. Looking for one of her friends, Laura comes to a small room where a lot of stuff was lying. After checking this room, Laura sees a secret door there, and this was the door without a knob. As it opened, there was a basement inside. Then Laura comes down and starts checking. She finds a lot of drawings made by Thomas on the wall. This makes it clear that he used to live in this basement. Upon checking the abode, she sees Simon's dead body in Thomas's clothes. Seeing this, Laura gets shocked. She is completely broken, as if she had gone mad. She starts sitting next to him and crying because she remembered something. She starts regretting the mistake she made. Actually, that day, the boy in the mask, whom Laura thought to be Thomas, was Simon. When Laura refused to go to Thomas's house and slapped Simon, he got angry and came to this basement. Everyone was looking for him, but he was in this basement. The mistake Laura made here was that when she came to see this small room, she had no idea that there could be a secret basement here. She ignored this door. By setting big pipes, by mistake, she fell in front of the door of the basement, which blocked the door, poor Simon could not come out from here, and after returning from the hospital, when Laura heard loud noises in the house, it was not anyone else's, but Simon's, who was trying to come out of the basement, but by mistake, his leg slipped and he fell down the stairs. His neck bone broke and there he died. Now Laura takes Simon's body out of there and brings it to her room. She held Simon in her lap. She takes her last breath after consuming a large number of sleeping pills, meaning she was also killed. After a while, we see Laura in the world of souls where people go after death, in afterlife, where Simon is in her lap. Along with him, there are also the souls of Thomas and the 5 orphan children. Now that day when Simon had found the coins in the treasure hunt game, he had asked his mother Laura for it. That means after his death, Laura should also die soon and come to him, and she can take care of Simon and the other children. Then all the souls of the children come to Laura and she tells stories to those children while playing the role of a mother. After this, we see Laura's husband, who had buried Laura, Simon, Thomas and the other children's bodies in front of the orphanage. He done their funeral and now was offering flowers to their graves. When he came back to the orphanage, he got the same chain that he had given to Laura, and he said that when our child is found, I will take it back from you. Then the front door opened on its own. Looking ahead and retrieving his chain, he puts a peaceful smile on his face because he understood that Laura has finally found Simon. Retrieving the chain signifies this, and now Laura and Simon are both finally happy together. With this, the film concludes.